Okay, look. I hate to be that gauche video game schnob that begins their entirely aimless video with a rhetorical question. Who am I fucking kidding? No, I don't. I, in fact, love being that gauche snob. But I just have to ask, what is a cozy game? Like, seriously, it's a simple question, but one that changes vastly depending on who you ask. For most, they immediately think of the mainstays. Your Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, a short hike, power wash simulator. But for me, I haven't the foggiest idea where to even begin to draw the line. For example, not only do I find such titles as Doom, Shin Megami Tensei, and even something as doom and gloomy as Oh, sorry, that was weird. Or Dark Souls. What? Dark Souls. Fuck, why can't I say Dark Souls? Yes, and that game. Not only do I find these titles tantalizingly cozy, despite their maddeningly gloom and doom vibes, but I also find them to be the perfect distressor for a day wherein I get beat up by corporate bosses, as opposed to ones wielding swords with more girth than Potemkin's forearm. To confuse where the definable line of cozy game is drawn even further, is how most of those priorly mentioned games that most people define as cozy are in reality hella stress simulators disguised as joyous times. Looking at you in particular, Stardew and Factorio mad lads. So what makes these comfy cozy? What warms our insides to feel like some ooey gooey lovely jubbly delight whenever these romps are played? Well, if you want some sort of egregiously pretentious, substanceless, and ostentatious answer written by a fool with no reputable life experience, me, I'll flash it on the screen right now for you, as it is rather ostentatious when read aloud. However, all that tiddly-biddly reason bollocks, that's not the point of this video. It's wintertime, and I hunger to quickly discuss one particular cozy, veggie stew-ass romp of a video game one can just utterly sip upon and enjoy at their own pace, like I did, amidst these bleak, cloudy, clad-in skies and snow-speckled grounds. This be the game that has lain by my side, which I absolutely adore, by the way. I mean that fully as a compliment. So, segue out of the way. What is a cozy game? Well, right now for me, it's Easy Delivery Co. Hell yeah! No confusion, no whimsily drawn line to arbitrarily define this as a cozy game. Easy Delivery Co. is a snug and indie charm that could potentially come to mind when you hear the term cozy game by any lovely jubbly fellow wishing to sell you on the next best Steamly tagged game to spend 10 bones on. However, disregard those notions, please, as mid this not be. Yes, I may be the fucking incarnation of the hay in the bandwagon of sheep-like mentalities, but despite that, I'm still capable of seeing a game and championing it, because even though it follows most conventions, it is the utter peak in displaying and playing with those conventions in a way that, while not breaking the conventions, does a really good job at displaying why they are conventional in the first place. So that being said, Easy Delivery Co. is a true, utter chiller killer, delivering all the vibes that just iron out the wrinkles of stress in my brain, and I just have to champion it and talk about it. So, the relaxing indie charm that be, Easy Delivery Co. See? Told you it's a cozy game. However, don't let that high-octane action-packed gameplay scare you off. This game not be a tonally packed to the brim with fucky-wucky action type of game. Rather, it be quite simple. Within, you play as a wee, slightly perturbed black cat K-driving Sam Porter Bridges, tasked with the high-stakes job of making it from point A to point B. Not really caring if the pizza boxes in the cab get tossed off into that deep gray of the hillside vista. Yeah, I know. A delivery game that doesn't penalize you for imitating the real deal, once considered impossible, eh? Now you too get to experience the joy of dropkicking every fragile marked box into the abyss below. You drive from those point A's to B's to cities in your little K truck of B, modeled quite accurately after the Honda Acti. Sidebar, I didn't actually know how prevalent these cars were in Japan until I moved here. Kinda neat. Your little truck drives like the scraping of a knife upon spreading slightly melted room temperature butter upon a fresh piece of toast, meaning it feels rather smooth whilst not overdoing it on the slip sliding that plagues many other driving games. The truck feels fittingly burly, husky, mighty, brawny, hulking, sturdy, all the adjectives, with a considerable weight to its movement, but not to the point of being chunky nor sluggish. The turning has the satisfaction of being able to smoothly shift to drift without immediately spinning out if you lose control for one mere moment. The road feels as if it's got texture. Like bread. It's just fucking hell. It's a genius implementation of all the standard requisite arcadey elements to the notch of perfect balance. It's the true scrapefoot, Goldilocks, other renowned fables of driving right here. It is just right. Holy hell. If you're a sucker for ambient audio through sole inclusion of diegetic music sources, then this is purely for you. All the music is diegetic, so if you don't want the chill as fuck tunes on the radio while driving, simply turn them off and listen to the wind blow and the tires crunch. Walk into a shop for some coffee beans or tea, and a wee little radio will be playing a tune quietly in the corner. Deliver a package and hear that whistling? You know the greaser of a kitsune is nearby, campfire prepped for a warm conversation, or a nice silent still listen to the trees rustling amidst the frigidity of the air. God, it placates my soul in a way like no other. Another notable point of positivity for me, and something you've probably already noticed if you're watching the footy, are the Animal Crossing-esque anthro-animals that inhabit the snow-clad shops. These villagers are a delight, mostly because a quarter of them seem to hate your guts, another quarter are empathetic towards the struggles of a porter, and the remaining quarter just don't give a fuck about you, detailing their own problems in such a heavy-handed manner, in the hopes that the sole person they've interacted with on that day picks up on the hint that they want them to solve all of their woes, on top of delivering all those crates of beer in a timely manner. Easiest comparison is, of course, what I did, which was Animal Crossing. However, not in the way you probably assume. These villagers are reminiscent of what most people remember the old AC residents behaving like, as to opposed to how they actually be. Sure, they were kind of snotty, uncaring, snippy, etc., but kinda toothless. It was a kid's game after all. Nintendo more likely than not has a policy instated restricting villagers from calling you a cunt, spitting on your new dresser and shitting on the floor. Here though? Well, okay, they still won't do any of those things, luckily, but they will outright tell you if they hate your guts, which is more than Animal Crossing could ever claim. The villagers aren't the only element that derives some semblance of inspiration from Animal Crossing, however. There's also the K-Truck, and how it quickly develops into your personal abode on the road. While you can upgrade several key features like a homeowner in debt, that isn't particularly the meaning I have when I say Animal Crossing-esque in homeliness. What I more so mean is that it's your sole spot of comfort, your personal escape from the hazardous world out there. Due to the fact that it is your essential heat source and protection from the cruelty of the cold, you swiftly come not to only value it, but outright cherish it. You'll start to feel the heat of a home radiate beyond the virtual space in the computer. It's all yours, and it emanates the physical warmth of a truck with a functional heater and the metaphorical warmth of a home lived in. It's a simple car, but it's your warm, simple car, and it'll always be there for when the frigid gets too much to handle. I'm gonna put a stop to all my gushing on the game here, however, as while I could ramble on more and more about just how lovely jubbly this game is, I really want you to play it. That's why I've tried to be spoiler-free as much as possible. However, as a couple things are still on my mind, I'll end with a lightning round. This romp easily slots in among the recently ever-growing sect of games that actually use the PSX CRT aesthetic to add to the experience, rather than just feeling like an arbitrary stab to the nostalgia kidneys. It isn't blatant bandwagon style hopping, I swear. But if it turns you off from engaging, or hinders your gameplay in any way, you can also just turn it off or adjust it to your heart's content. It's your choice. These town locale names are the most northwestern-ass city titles of all time, and I dig it. Upton? Winton? Easton? Damton? The town with a dam? Slap in or on anything, and I'll move there in nothing short of a moment. For a cozy game, the environment is incredibly hostile, an accurate representation of how the winter months really are. I may love the cold to an extent, but that extent doesn't extend beyond the realm of understanding it's a very real danger. Frigid cold and a swift brisk breeze cuts through the bone, and that shit is brutal. This game captures that element of a hostile, unwelcoming environment splendidly, while also somehow making the atmosphere feel desirable and comfy. This is the type of environment I love to explore through video games. Environments that seem wonderful, comfy, and enticing from the surface, but in reality are hostile and deadly. I sure as shit wouldn't want to be stranded in this silent peaks-ass hill freezing killer roadside without any help on the way. But here, in the virtual world, the cozy world, I can enjoy this environment for all it's worth. I can enjoy something ultimately harmful and prickly. I mean, you can still freeze to death though. Quickly. In fact, you probably will. That probably would have been important to mention sooner. One grievance of particular I'd like to note was that of which I had with the map system initially, and how you don't have a marker for your location of current. You're to figure out where you are simply by following the roads and the instated roadside signs abundant throughout the land. Now, coming from a mate with the spatial awareness of a head with its chicken cut off, I struggled for what some would probably claim is a rather long period of time. However, unlike my playthrough of Hollow Knight, where it seemed to be nothing but a hindrance, and upon first chance I immediately bought the charm that shows your player icon on the map, here, in Easy Delivery Co., it eventually did add to the world. I just began to learn my way around the relatively simple landscape, and a sense of homeliness and coziness ended up deriving from this memorization of the map. It soon felt like a map that I wasn't merely familiar with, but one I lived in. I liked this cabin. It be my mate. Demon Souls ass, Dark Souls ass cabin wannabe. This game was developed by one solitary mate named Sam C, with little aid from outside sources, something I always find incredible. Although I doubt you'll ever see this, mate, I just want you to know the game is wonderful, and your work here was well worth it. Everything has some semblance of hefty yet implicit calm serenity to it. Each leaves a heavy impact that justifies its implementation. The wee bits, from brewing tea over a simple fire, to the first person driving and chilling with a cool kitsune next to the calm rumbles of a street-side campfire. They're all worth inclusion. I love it. I love a game that respects the desire in all of us to actively stop the car engine mid-drive, get out, and stare off into that foggy, frostbitten, tree-laden distance and just admire the polygonally jagged view amidst the snowy peaks. So to sum up, classifying this game as a mere vibe is rather reductive, but entirely true. It is a fucking vibe, mate. The abundant and ingenious additions of simple in concept and in execution elements sprinkled throughout really just add up to create a unique and compelling sense of disquietude and, well, it's great. I love that unique disquietude. However, maybe that unique disquietude isn't just because of the atmosphere and snowy vista abundant. The game kinda makes you wonder, why are the towns so desolate? What's the deal with that giant brutalist factory in the distance with a non-stop train running? Why is the sign on this bar sometimes backwards? Why are you tasked with delivering an empty milk crate? And, of course, Why the fuck, in a world full of animals, are there deer crossing signs? Needless to say, quite alluring. Eh, who am I kidding? As the developer so bluntly outlined on their personal website, the game has no lore, no story, nothing there to chew on. And why, my dear viewer, would the developer ever lie or obscure something like that? So, if you desire a romp that doesn't elicit a single solitary ounce of incredibly interesting narrative intrigue regarding the denizens, onslaught of cold weather, or a Persona Velvet room liminal maze of days and confusion, this be the game for you. No lore, no thinking, nada. So take a break from the cynical world and enjoy the space of another cynical world provided within Easy Delivery Co.